Hi, friends, and welcome. I am your hot mess of a host, Mary Hendricks from The Very Merry Life, your new mom friend that soon will feel like an old friend. Twice a week, every week, I want you to come and join me as we cover moments in motherhood, marriage, sex, and more. Some moments worth savoring, others worth surviving, all with a laugh, pep talk, or F-bomb every now and again. I want you to come as you are, but leave the sugarcoating behind because, guys, we know how sweet it already is. So what do you say? Up for picking some daisies? All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode. Welcome, Melanie. Welcome, Yanina.
Hi. Thank you.
Hi. Yay. Okay. So for everyone listening, this has been a highly requested episode because of the content matter. If you've seen the title of it, which I don't know what we will title it yet, but it will be telling as to what we're talking about. You will kind of get a sense as to what we're broaching the subject of today, because it is something that's a little bit more taboo. It is something that has a curtain of shame around it a little bit. And I recently covered it on Instagram. The feedback was actually very positive, and we're going to take it one step further and hopefully normalize the conversation. But before we do that, I want you guys to introduce yourselves, and then we'll kind of get into it. All right.
Thank you.
So, what have you guys?
So I'll start. We have a friendship and relationship where we're constantly deferring to each other and never wanting to step on each other's toes. So that's what you just experienced in live form. So my name is Melanie. I am a co-founder of Love You 3 along with Yanina, who will introduce herself in just a moment. I am a 40-year-old mom to a 7-year-old daughter, and also, I have, in addition to Love You 3, a full-time career in the finance world. Really happy to be here and connecting with you, Mary, and your audience, and see where this conversation goes.
Yes. Hi, everybody. My name is Yanina Kaminsky, and I am a mother to a 7-year-old and also a 22-year-old. I also work in corporate America for the past about 20 years, and Melanie and I embarked upon creating Love You 3 Self-Care 2 years ago, and it has been an amazing ride. And to your point, Mary, I think that by creating our company, we've been kind of pulling down that curtain and that stigma that comes with edibles, and we'd love to discuss that further.
Awesome. Yeah. Cause that's how, I don't even know how you guys found me. Cause I know we got connected because you guys are a small business and we kind of got connected that way. But it kind of fell into my lap at the perfect time. And for everyone here, that is what we're talking about. We're talking about edibles, and it's not the typical CBD edibles. These are a little extra oomph edibles with THC in them. And I felt like this kind of lined up perfectly with me because as background for everyone listening, I use it. There you go. It's out in the open. I love a good edible. And we have funny enough, New Jersey actually recently just legalized it for recreational use. That's where we're based. It is blowing up left and right. There's a dispensary about 20 minutes from me. There's one, we were just on our way to my parents this past weekend, about a mile away from us. There's a new one popping up. And then there's one the other direction. Like, they're all over the place. So the conversation is happening, but I feel like online it's not. And especially in the mom community, it's definitely not happening. And because of that, I've hid it for a while. I really haven't talked about it because it's one of those where you kind of make a new mom friend and you say it out loud and then you're like, you hesitate a little bit. You're like, oh, what's your feelings on this one? Yeah. And it's an interesting subject. So with getting started in Love You 3, how'd you guys get started in this?
It started exactly the way you just described, where two moms were both taking part in some kind of consumption of, THC edibles. And we sort of casually mentioned it and then cringed to see what the response might be, and found out that there is an entire underground community of women keeping secrets from each other because they don't want to be judged about their consumption. And so just to kind of go back to where Love You 3 started, it was 2020. Everybody remembers it well. high COVID pandemic. We both live in the DC metro area. So being a city, everything was very much shut down and made it really difficult to connect in general, which made, finding outlets for your everything, your stress, your ailments, your frustrations, your fears. It was just that much more difficult. And so I remember so vividly Yanina and I talking once about just what's going on. And I don't remember if it was you or me that said it first, but it kind of came up in the conversation, something about gummies or edibles. And it just flourished from there, the conversation. And before we knew that we were like creating a business here, before that became, obvious, really the intention was to simply focus on creating a community around this for people just like us, other moms who are working, women specifically, who want to take part in some kind of THC, or THC derivative, but don't know where to get it, don't know what to call it, don't know what is safe, don't know how it's made, don't know who to call, don't know if it's legal. And so 3 years ago, in 2020, it really wasn't legal in most places. And so we really went on this kind of adventure to figure out how we could open the conversation. And where we ended up is, creating product ourselves that really spoke to us and our needs and what we knew the community cared about. And just to take that one step further, we were both realizing that the edibles that we did find before there were dispensaries, up the street, down the street, and otherwise, is, it was these kind of like sleazy back alley, I don't want to even say dealers because that's like a step too far, I think. Yeah. But like you get a phone number from someone and then go meet somebody downtown and they like hand you something into your car and you give them cash. And it looks like a gummy worm, but you don't know what the dosage is. You don't know how much of it to take.
That's how it was, though. And I know how even it was back during 2020 because, again, it was legal in many places more for medicinal, but not in terms of recreation. So to get any of it, and I know the only time, so I tried it when I went up, I've smoked pot in high school. I smoked pot in college. I did not like it. The high always killed me. I was always paranoid. I hated the feeling. I don't like feeling out of body. Like I like being in control. Yeah. That's one of the reasons why I actually really don't drink anymore. And people, I have a huge community that knew me when they found me on Instagram that knew that I loved wine. And I always have loved wine. My relationship with wine during the pandemic was not healthy. I'll be the first to admit that because I was in postpartum depressive state and pandemic depressive state. And then it got unhealthy again, not to a point where it was dangerous, but like where you're definitely leaning on it a little too much. And it got that way with my third postpartum experience with anxiety and depression. And the side effects of alcohol just knock me out. I don't know if it's because I turned 33 or what, but I can't have a glass of wine without anxiety the next day.
Yes. Without
a headache the next day, without being groggy the next day. And, before all of that, I went up to my friends who were on she lived in Rhode Island, but she was right on the border of Massachusetts and they were legal for recreational use at the time. And I went up there for a trip and her and my friend, there was a trio of us, they went to the dispensary and they're like, do you want anything? And I was like, absolutely not. Like, I hate this stuff. Like, I absolutely don't want any part of it. And they went, they got gummies. We're sitting around, we weren't doing anything. They're like, do you want to try some? I took probably a 2 milligram bite out of a gummy and I felt great. Again, it's 2 milligrams, so it wasn't anything, but I felt wonderful. I slept great. I was like loosened up, where I just didn't feel like constricted with like anxiety. And you carry so much of that. You don't realize how much you carry until you let it go. Yeah. And I was like, this is awesome. And then when you got back home, like you were saying, it's like not these dealers, but it was a loophole that people were able to find to get it into your hands.
Yes.
Which technically wasn't legal, but I know my hairdresser at the time was like, you call this number and it's someone that's going to come and bring you ordered Doritos. Like, it's like a Doritos, a bag of chips or a candy bar. That's what you're technically buying is the candy bar, but then they also give you this.
Yes.
I never ended up doing it because I was so scared shitless I was going to get like some rigged stuff. But that's how it was before it became what it is now. And thank God.
Yes.
Who knows? So Mary, you bring up a beautiful point. So I think, Melanie, this triggered my memory that I think I told you. So I met this man named, well, let's just call him Porcupine. I met him on like the side road somewhere. Yeah. And then when I actually took the stuff, I was like, am I really going to eat this? Like, it really scared me. Yeah. And then that's also something that when Melanie and I really sat down and thought of our company and our brand, what is the most important thing for us? And it's transparency. So that's why on the back of every one of our products, we have a QR code that takes our consumer to the certificate of analysis. So you can see everything your product has been tested against and what is actually within your product. Yeah. Because we want this to be a truly luxurious experience. Like, you're going to feel euphoric. You're going to feel good. And you're going to be able to carry on with your day-to-day life and feel just a bit of a lift. We don't want to feel out of body. We don't want to feel like, wait, what day is it today? Like, that was never the intent for our product. And Melanie and I took it as far as we actually went into a lab. We created each of these formulations, and then we had test studies and groups with individuals like yourself, with our family, with other folks. And people are like, yes, I sleep great on this. I do this on that. And so it was a real community experience. And that's why we reach out to women like yourself, Mary, because seeing you on Instagram, seeing how authentic you are in our woman community means everything to us.
No, well, thank you. Yeah, no, I was ready to broach the situation because I think when I was ready, because I for everyone listening, I have the gummies. I have to get more because they're fucking freaking awesome. I want to say fucking awesome. They are fucking awesome. But I had someone message me, and it was a follower of mine who said, I think she caught another podcast of mine where I've slipped it in here and there. And I have another bi-monthly co-host who comes on, and sometimes I'll take one and we'll just like shoot the shit, and it's hilarious. But I think the follower had caught one of those episodes where I mentioned it like for a split second. And she said, I want to pick your brain. She said, because I can't can't with alcohol anymore. Like it's the things that I was doing. And she said, but I'm struggling. She said, I'm struggling with anxiety. I'm struggling with like, sleep and things like that. And honestly, that's one of the biggest things that why I took it was because same thing. I was struggling with anxiety. My anxiety typically hits really hard at night. And I struggle with sleep. So for me to have something to alleviate that and help me has just been a game changer in my life. And I feel like it's carrying over because when you get big sleep and good sleep, you really do feel like that impact. But she reached out to me and she's just asking, she's like, I'm so scared. I don't know any of this stuff because no one's talking about it. So I don't know what to do. And I was like, okay, this is why we're going to talk about this now, because
I'm so glad she reached out to you. Yeah. And it says a lot about the trust that your audience has in you. I would say there's 3 things that most of our community is afraid of before they're trying it. Yep. One is what you started out saying is, I don't want to lose control. Yep. I don't want to be out of control. And I'll say in a moment how we actually gain more control over other alternatives like drinking. Yep. To take an edible at a reasonable dosage with super high quality ingredients, no trash in it, you're going to feel better, not just as you're on it and taking it, but obviously the next day when you're not hungover and you've gotten great sleep instead of shitty sleep when you're like coming down from, a bottle of wine. Yeah. The second thing people tend to be afraid of is legality of it.
Yeah.
And so there are different rules, obviously, in every state. Some states, like where I live in Northern Virginia, there are dispensaries up and down the street. They've all been shut down in the last 3 weeks, last 3 months, because legislation changes. And it's really hard to keep up if you're an individual. So we've done that job for our clients. We've provided the community with the products that are legal in their state, and we ship to any state where it is federally legal to have hemp-based THC products. So we feel really proud of that. And then the third thing that people tend to be afraid of is the stigma. That's where we started the conversation, right? How are people going to feel about it if I told them or if they found it? And so these conversations help a lot. But we've also, we've designed this product to look and feel like a cosmetic.
Yeah.
You could have it like on your dresser or on your vanity, without any concern that there's like a black baggy Ziploc of like, who knows what. And so all of those things are completely valid fears that we have worked really hard to like address one by one.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it is. And it's, so your products have Delta 8 in them, which I know Delta 8 is not necessarily, is it the same as what I'm getting at a dispensary? Because I know I was talking to someone else and they actually messaged me and she was like, I was doing some research on Delta 8. I'll be honest, I didn't do a ton of research on what Delta 8 is compared to other. I just know that Delta. Yeah. But she said, she's like, oh, I saw that it's actually like a less potent version of some things. I was like, I don't know about that. I feel pretty damn good on this one. But I will say, because I had someone message me after I shared you guys last week, and the gummies that you have, they're super cute, by the way. They're like these little heart-shaped gummies in each one, and they're just adorable. But she had said, she was like, I saw that you take a 10 and it's a 10 milligram of Delta 8. And I was like, yeah. And she's like, holy shit. She's like, how do you do that? And I was like, I don't know what the difference is with my other, I could probably grab them and see, but I have another bag from a dispensary. And if I take a full 10, I can't see straight. And that I actually don't dabble in that one very often because I do not feel great on that. Yours are the only ones that I can take and like act like a normal human being.
Yeah. I'll quickly describe for anybody who does have that interest, the difference between the two. There's the science and then there's the feeling, right? I won't get too much into the science because nobody cares about that nerd stuff. Yanina and I love that stuff because
do it in like for dummies.
Where we came from.
Yeah.
So basically, Delta 8 and Delta 9. So Delta 8 is THC that comes from hemp. Delta 9 is THC that comes from marijuana. Hemp and marijuana are cousins. So they come from the same family tree. Okay. They're all, they look the same when you grow the plant and things like that. Marijuana is really heavy in THC and really low in CBD. Hemp is really high in CBD. So if you smoked hemp, you would get a CBD hit, but you're not going to get that much THC. But there is THC in it. So in certain states, well, actually nationally, in the entire country, national law says that hemp is legal to buy, to sell, to grow, to smoke. So what we've done is we've taken basically the hemp plant and through a processing system, distilled out the THC from it. And it's a complex process, a lot of chemistry involved. But we have isolated out the THC from the CBD in a manufacturing plant here in Virginia where the hemp is grown. And that's how we get the THC. It's called Delta 8 because that's how it's identified as hemp. The THC feeling is the same between Delta 9 and Delta 8 for most people.
Yeah.
And I want to be clear when I say most people, because how your brain chemistry works is going to affect your result, not the product itself. However, this is the most important thing about our product, Love You 3. We've blended the THC with other things. We've blended it with CBD that also comes from our organically grown hemp. We've blended it with CBG, which is a part of the hemp that's really good for the gut-brain connection. And so when you put those together, you get a different outcome in terms of how you feel. It's calmer. It's less of this kind of like intense body high.
Yep.
You're not feeling like you just need to pass out and go to sleep like you sometimes do when you smoke weed. It's just the blend that we created is what gives you that great outcome on 10 milligrams.
Yeah.
And a lot of people start on half a gummy.
Yeah. And I would say that for anyone here that like afterwards, and I'll put all in like the show notes, like the discount code and everything. That way you guys can like check all this out and find out more information. But I will say that like start very small, like start small, especially if you've never done this before. You don't want to overdo it because then it will ruin your first introduction to it. You don't want to feel like that. But I will say that like I had someone else ask me, they're like, can you sleep on it? Or do you immediately feel like you have to fall asleep? No. For me, hold on, I might have to close my windows real quick. My landscaper is outside. Sorry about that. He literally is cutting the grass.
No problem at all.
But what I was going to say is I can sleep on it. So when I'm ready to fall asleep, easily be able to do that. If I have stuff that I want to get done, the amount of energy I have to get done, it's like a focus on me, but I'm ready to crash whenever that time comes. So I feel in control. I just, like I said, you let go a tiny smidge and you're able to just like sit. And I don't know, I actually feel like myself. I feel like myself without all the like noise and the restriction that we've like built on ourselves, where I'm like, I can actually see what I like. And creatively, like for me, some of my best reels have come out from when I take one of your gummies. So I'm like, we're just going to keep rolling with that.
We'll be back after a quick break. Eye-Opening Moments podcast are real-life stories of adversity, encounters, and perspectives. They are moments that can lift your spirits, give you some food for thought, or move you. For the introspective mind that likes to reflect, discover, and find solutions or meaning in a complex life, listen to Eye-Opening Moments podcasts.
No, Mary, we love that. And one thing we do want to tell your audience as well is that for our products, all of them except for one of them has the Delta 8. So that's Beauty Sleep. So Melanie and I specifically designed Beauty Sleep to just have CBD, CBN. It also has hyaluronic acid. All of our products have collagen in them and are also vegan.
Great.
So for the Beauty Sleep, we know that every single human being on this earth deserves to sleep. And some people do not want to partake in THC at all because either it's their choice, they don't want to, or because of whatever the reason. So we created that product, Mary, to do exactly that. Like if people want to, experience the product and just start slow, start with just CBD, CBN and see how they feel. Great. And to your point, microdose. We encourage every new user of the product, take a bite, see how you feel in an hour. And to your last point about the reels and like really enjoying it and feeling like yourself, when Melanie and I go out and we'll have dinner, we'll do something, we take a gummy and sometimes we'll have a drink, a nice cocktail, but that's it for us. Like we are so happy and in the moment. And it's just like this uptick, like this euphoric, like I'm good. All that extra anxiety and just constant like narrative that goes on, it's like not there, and you're actually present in the moment, which has been fabulous for us.
Yeah. I always say, I mean, when I talked about it like on Instagram and people always said like, it's no different. I don't really want to do it, but I don't see it any different than a mom enjoying a glass of wine. And I was like, it's not. I mean, if you're using it responsibly, and that's like the biggest thing with all of this. And I think that's where the stigma part of it is coming from, is like when people hear anything related to THC in any manner, they think of the bum that's like just sitting on the couch high and not doing anything, or or even, I mean, there is a stigma with even moms having a glass of wine. It's gotten too far. I do think that there is a wine mom culture. I've talked about this before, but most moms are not that. It's just the stigma that's been attached to it, where it's like you've been made to feel bad about any sort of thing. And I think the big thing too that everyone likes to say is like, you shouldn't need that stuff. You shouldn't need it. And I think that's like the big thing that everyone likes to say is like, you don't need it. I was like, do everything else in your power. Do exercise, eat right, do what you need to do. Yes. But if you need one extra thing, I don't see why it's any different than people who have to take a medication to take the edge off for any of that stuff.
For sure. And like, look, people have been using plant-based substances since the beginning of humanity, right? We have assigned some kind of narrative to what it means or like what it represents to us. And I'm with you. Like, when I think about like smoking weed, like a joint or smoking a bowl or any of those versions of weed that I grew up with, I think of, like you said, a kid like sunk into a dirty old futon with the lights out, watching, nothing on TV.
Right. For hours.
We don't want that. But I have a question for you, Mary. Like, as you drink less and less over time, when you go out with your girlfriends, let's say you do a mom's night out or something, do you feel comfortable like taking a gummy before you go, or do you bring it with you, or do you just have a glass of wine in those situations? Like, how do you participate?
Usually, so my concern, more or less, because my husband is a police officer, so I do have the legality portion of like driving in that. So I don't feel comfortable driving on it because sometimes it can get me a little out.
Sure. That's
not
smart.
Where I'm out of body, but again, you don't know, and I don't want to risk it. So for me, unless I know I have someone driving me or driving me somewhere, then I'll easily take one if I'm with my girlfriends, whenever the hell that happens, because I'm a mom of 3 crazy ass kids and very little childcare help these days. But when that does, it depends on my friend group too. It depends on who I'm with. But yes, if I have a DD, then absolutely. If not, then I'll get into like a drink or two, and then I'll feel like shit the next day, which is actually what happened the last time I was out when I got my nose pierced a month ago, and I went out with my girlfriends to like go do that and then go get drinks afterwards. I felt awful the next day, like absolutely crappy. And I drove because I didn't have that much, but it was enough where I was obviously fine to drive, but it was enough to kick my ass. And it sucks. And it's hard nowadays where I'm like, we were on vacation recently with my entire family, and I really didn't drink that much. I took gummies. I brought your gummies up with me. And I was like, I'm just going to take this and hang out and be able to enjoy myself and not feel like the odd duck out. And again, this isn't saying for anyone listening to, this doesn't mean that you have to take it if you're whatever, but if you want to partake in something and you want to actually like not feel bad the next day, then I think this is the better option, honestly. I think the big thing too with like the wine comparison is like alcohol at the end of the day. And again, I'm for anyone having a glass of wine. Alcohol, your body doesn't like alcohol. It's a toxin. It's not something your body is like, I'm glad you gave this to me.
Right.
It's completely throwing it off. So for this, like, I don't feel groggy. I don't have a hangover. And someone actually asked about that on my Instagram stories, and I'll take a peek at those in a second. But I know someone had said, is there a down? Like, do you get a down feeling like you usually get with alcohol? Because I get anxiety is what I call it.
Yeah, of course.
But no, I've never experienced like a negative side effect of it.
No, because you're not going through withdrawals, which is what a hangover is.
Yeah.
You're just altering not to get all nerdy again, but the cannabinoid system that exists in our brains. Yeah. All of us are born with this system, lots of systems. Our bodies are made up of systems, and there's one called a cannabinoid system.
Yeah.
That's sort of the link to cannabis because it affects that system. And so you're just giving your brain, the systems in your brain, something to switch off some of the hormones that make us anxious.
Yeah.
For example, the cortisol that wakes us up in the middle of the night or keeps us from falling asleep. When you are able to change the dial on that system that exists up here, then you're able to sleep and relax and have fun and giggle and sometimes get the munchies, although I haven't had that issue with our gummies.
I haven't either. I do sometimes. It depends on how much I ate during the day, but honestly, I haven't gotten it.
Yeah, I haven't either, but we're working within the systems that we have in our bodies already. And you're right, alcohol. I mean, again, no shame on people who enjoy their wine or whatever else they prefer to use or drink. But for me, as I've gotten older, every single year since I graduated college, I've had worse and worse hangovers. Yeah. And now it's not even a hangover. I cannot get to sleep. My body is mad at me when I have a glass of wine. Like I can't rest. I wake up throughout the night. I just feel terrible. And so that's gone,
all of that good stuff. Yeah. It's like an hour after I drink, I just sit there on the couch and I'm like, something's wrong with me. I actually I had 2 high noons, like, the hard seltzers back over the summer. And I sent my girlfriends a text message and I sent them a video, and you watch my hand, and I literally only had 2, and my hand was like this.
Oh my gosh.
And I couldn't, and I just looked at my husband. He was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "I can't not touch this stuff anymore. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's psychosomatic. I have no idea. But at this point, it's just my body hates any of this." And then I feel like I have a 2-day turnaround time where it's like the next day I'm snappy at my kids because I have anxiety that I didn't realize I had, and I'm tired, and I'm just like, I don't want this. And I think the problem too with the whole taboo nature of it is that we don't, again, this isn't for anyone that likes, again, we're assuming responsibility here. So we're assuming that you're drinking responsibly and things like that. But I feel like a lot of moms or women or men even feel like there's no other choice in something else. And then they don't know where to turn because they feel like, I'm not ready to let go of drinking because I want that relaxed state when I'm out socially or things like that. There's no, we all know that there's a heightened anxiety when you're with others. So people don't want to let go of that, but they don't know where else to turn because there's such a stigma about this, where it's like, it doesn't have to be. You can enjoy yourself if you need that. Yes. Like there's an option and you can feel really good.
Absolutely.
You said it.
Yeah. 100%. And one last thing, Mary, I did want to raise, because Melanie raised a great point too. With our cortisol level, especially as we age, for myself, I'm entering that phase of premenopause.
Yep.
So for me, being able to really like get a good night's sleep and have that just turn off. I always take the gummy at night. Yeah. And I sleep so well. And then I wake up and I'm like, okay, thank God. Because again, I think, Melanie, we were out like a couple of weeks ago and we both had some champagne and we had maybe a little like a fun drink. It's so difficult because, Mary, to your point, I snap at my child. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, why are you taking so long? Like, what is going on? And then I'm like, why the fuck am I acting like this?
Yeah.
And I'm miserable. And then I'm not happy until that evening that I'm finally able to take my gummy, go to sleep, and wish it all away. So that in the morning, the next day, I actually am back to baseline. Like I'm okay.
Yeah.
So alcohol, it's like a delicate dance. And I come from a family where alcohol was always present. They're European. They drink wine all the time, like during their meals, this, that, the other. And it's completely acceptable. And so nobody's knocking that. But for me, it's funny because I look at it, other folks enjoying it, and I'm like, how do you not get the feelings I get? How do you not feel bad?
I think they do. I honestly think maybe there are some. I haven't talked to her in many years. I remember there was a girl in college that could literally drink her weight in alcohol and be fine the next day. She was like someone that would always be at class on time. She was never hungover. And I was like, how in the hell are you doing this? I don't think it was necessarily healthy considering it was binge drinking. But I think there are some people whose body probably could process it a little bit better than ours. I have no idea.
That's true. Yeah.
I don't know. And it's just, like you were saying, like again, I leaned on alcohol a little bit because you do get stressed. I'm currently, I have an almost 6-year-old, I have a 4-year-old and an 18-month-old. Like I am in the thick, and that's where the whole mommy wine culture comes in. And I do see that there is a problematic nature with it, where it's like you are taking the edge off. I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing sometimes, but I think sometimes it was a crutch where I was like, okay, it's really noisy, it's really stressed, I'm overstimulated, whatever it may be. And I was like, I'm just going to drink and numb that portion of myself. Sure. And the one thing I like to say just about your gummies, because I've used them, and this is like a full on testimonial of I've been using them for well over a month now, is like probably 2 months at this point, but I'm elevated, not numb. So I can feel everything and I can understand what's going on. And I know that, but it's like, this is good for like my spirit, like where I'm just like, I'm able to take this in. I have more patience because I'm not like, it's a different feeling. And it's just, that's why I wanted to talk about it. And that's why like, even I'll pull up the Instagram stuff now is like the questions I got from people were like, thank you for talking about this. Even one, let me see. Grab it right now. No specific questions. Just want to let you know that I'm very excited about this. And someone said, I love this so much. Cannabis, whatever that may be, has absolutely saved my life, quite literally. Saved my life. And I got messages and I don't know if I actually saved them under, let me look real quick because you guys will enjoy some of these stories. And then
it's like, it touches our hearts because we feel the same way. And that's why we do this.
Yeah. Oh, here we go. Okay. So this is one that I got. So thank you so much. This is after I shared you guys, last week or 2 weeks ago. Thank you so much for sharing about this. She put the leaf emoji. I do partake to help with PTSD, anxiety, and insomnia. I use it in combination with therapy, exercise, and a healthy diet. I had horrible postpartum depression, postpartum anxiety, and OCD with my second, and the combination of the leaf or emoji with therapy has truly saved my life. I'm not someone who can drink. Even one drink sends me into an anxiety spiral. I always do it in moderation. It's not to get effed up, as she said. It's a calm anxiety, rationalize my thoughts, and help certain situations. There's such a stigma with it, but when used correctly, it can be such a helpful tool. Like you said, it isn't a Band-Aid. It's just one of the many tools that can be used to help someone, or hell, even allow someone to loosen up and have a little fun on occasion, just like some people do with alcohol in healthy moderation. I feel passionate about it, but unfortunately, it's so stigmatized. It's something I truly can't be honest with other moms who I know would benefit.
Wow.
That was the message I got. Or another one was said, thank you for talking about this. I love my gummies. I only take them occasionally when I'm with my husband and I know he's at home. It helps my anxiety. When I suffered with PPD, I told my therapist I used edibles and she was like, go you. And then the last one I got was freaking lifesaver. I have my medicinal card. And I honestly think I may have died of stomach issues if it weren't for being able to use in some ways. So not necessarily you're using your gummies, but just the nature of it, of whatever it may be. And, this is a company, and that's why I wanted to bring you guys on for everyone listening, is like, these are people that are in the lab that know where it's coming from, and you can trust what you're getting and you can know what you're getting and things like that. But let me look at questions and then we will wrap it up afterwards, because I know that. Okay. So how to buy them if you're in New Jersey. So you can buy them online. You can order them online. I know there are some states. I know Rhode Island is one state that you can't get it shipped to. And I don't know the other ones. I don't know if you guys know them offhand.
Yeah. So there are a couple and they change all the time, Mary. So on our webpage, which is just loveyou3.com, when you go into the different products, we have notice that says what states we cannot ship to. But I want to let your audience know that we have one product that has absolutely no THC in it.
Yep.
It's for sleeping.
Yep.
Called Beauty Sleep.
And that one's great. That one's great. It feels like melatonin, but you're not groggy in the morning.
That's right. So, and that one we ship to every state.
Okay.
So there's something for everyone.
Okay. Awesome.
And so we even have something for dogs, Mary. I don't know.
Yes, you sent me that. I actually been giving it to, we've been giving it to my dog, Lucy. I haven't been as consistent with it, but my dog is like, poor Lucy. She's got such anxiety. The poor dog. Let's see. How do you manage with kids? Do you just wait until they're asleep? That's more for me. I mean, if on weekends, if my husband's home, again, I'm very careful about driving. I'm just nervous with the driving aspect. So I get worried about that. I try to create the environment that I want to really enjoy it in. So again, if you're someone that could get paranoid about stuff like that, wait until they're in bed, wait until you know that like someone else is home with you. Just God forbid something like, I don't want to take one and have my kid fall down the stairs and then I have to worry about getting to the ER or anything like that. So if that's something that you are, don't want to kill your buzz, then put them to bed and then wait. Or on the weekends, if my husband's home, then I'll pop one and have a good time during the day-to-day process because I know he's taking over. My daughter suffers from crippling anxiety. I've always wondered if this would work for her. What are your thoughts? It's worth a shot. Depends on how old your daughter is. Obviously, if she's a little kid, then don't do that.
Yeah.
But if she's old enough within legal age, then it might be worth a shot. You never know.
Yes. Over 21.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yes. Yes. Is it normal for different gummies in the same jar to feel different? I've heard this before. So I actually have experienced this before because you get like from the dispensary, I've gotten gummies before. I'll take a gummy and I'll be completely fine. I'll take another gummy on the next day and I will be out of my mind.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts?
It's a good question. And that happens for a couple different reasons. Mainly because when gummies are mass produced, it's sort of like any recipe that you make. If you make a big batch of it, some of the ingredients kind of naturally fall to one spot or another. And so gummies, as you can imagine, it starts out as a liquid, it gets poured into molds. And then sometimes, like if you're doing giant, enormous batches, you're going to have some more of the THC showing up in certain parts of the batch than others. That's the exact reason why we do small batch made by hand. So our partners who produce our gummies, they grow the hemp physically in an all-natural farm in Virginia, Shenandoah Valley. They also distill that hemp and then mix the ingredients to our formulation. And we've spent a lot of time in their lab working with them. And we have not only requested, we've mandated that these batches get made in a small batch by hand to avoid that issue altogether. So if you've had that problem, give Love You 3 a try and see if you have a better experience. But I've never experienced that with our heart.
I haven't. The only thing that I've experienced, and this is more of I think it's more of a personal issue, is depends on how much I've eaten that day.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So if you're going to take this, if you're going to try it, make sure you have food in your stomach. Like it's kind of like alcohol per se, not really, but I feel like alcohol obviously impacts you different if you don't have a lot of food in your stomach. But I feel like if I don't have a lot in me, then my high is completely different.
Sure.
I wonder if hormonally, if even like the time of the month, I don't even know if that's a thing that could impact it, but sometimes it hits different at different moments, but I think it's more of a personal thing than it does the gummy per se. So I think it all just depends, but again, start slow, start slow with this. Negative effects. Have I had any? I personally have not. I haven't experienced anything that has impacted me. I don't know if Yanina, if you've ever experienced anything negative from taking this stuff, if you ever experienced a negative feeling.
From Love You 3 products, no. From meeting Porcupine on the side street somewhere and like ingesting like a half. Oh, that was the scariest night of my life. And I was like, never again.
Yeah. So yes,
and
there
never
could be.
again.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. I will say that. That's why I like to normalize this conversations because absolutely you could totally take too much and you can feel like shit. Or you can, again, I like to say, make sure you're in a good state of mind in order to take this. Like you are going to get the result that based off of the environment that you set up it for. So if I wouldn't take one and watch a scary movie. Like I wouldn't do something like that. Like I would be with people that you trust. Make sure that you know that you're safe, that you're in a safe environment. Make sure that you know your surroundings. Make sure that you're level-headed and you're feeling good. Like it's a big thing that you want to make sure that you're.
Mary, I couldn't agree more. Yep. And it's just, we're accountable adults. Like we know what our limits are. And especially when we're trying something new, again, we'll stress it, microdose, take a little bite, see how you feel. And Mary, really quick, I did want to share one thing and ask you and Melanie how we can try to kind of help. And I think by doing podcasts such as this really helps, Mary, in regards to helping people understand, like, there's stigma around this. And I was, to your point too, at a gathering with moms I didn't even know. And they started talking about it. And then some of them were very whatever. And then I thought that I was going to just take that path of like being quiet. And then I said, you know what? I'm an owner of Love You 3 Self-Care. Take a look. And then everyone's eyes were like, oh my God, I want to know more. Can you please tell me? So it's almost just sometimes like people think it's the norm to be like, oh no, I would never. But then when somebody actually says, but guess what, guys, I have this company, take a look, see if you have any questions, ask away. I'd love to be able to respond. I think that also helps us as women and in our women community to be able to say, well, this is what I've tried. This has been my experience.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's huge. I think we need to break the ice on it. I feel like when we're all like so secret and on it, like we're not, you don't get the information like this. You're not going to get the information as to how to learn it, to use it safely and responsibly and controlled, like, and
100%.
know how to do it. Like, for example, FYI, do you know that if you take too much, you should take, I think I said this too. I learned it when I went to the dispensary, and I actually had a conversation with the guy behind the counter who was like walking me through it. And he told me, one, if you've ever smoked it before, like if you smoked pot and you really hated that feeling, because I know I hate that feeling, it's a completely different high. He said smoking it versus ingesting it is actually an incredibly different high. And one is more of like I don't know if he said the edibles were more of a body high versus the smoking it. I forget which one he said, but like he was like, one is a lot different than the other. But he had said, if you ever take too much and you were like, I need to bring this down a notch, he said, crack black peppercorn in your mouth or cinnamon. And it's something in those things. And I don't really know. I don't know if Melanie knows the crazy science nerd stuff of it, but I was like, oh, wow. Okay. Good to know. But I was like, that's the stuff that you wouldn't know about, learn about if you don't have that conversation and figure out how to do this the way that you can actually enjoy this and get something out of it. So other than that, question wise, let me see. I'm assuming it's safe to do living if you take, I'm assuming it's safe to do living if you take one. Clearly, I've never done anything. I don't know what that means, but is there a low afterwards? We've already covered that. No. Is it mild? If you microdose, it can be, just start slow. And then I'm assuming it's safe to take. Yeah, it's safe to take. Just control it. Again, responsibility amongst all of this stuff is like, we're trusting that you're going to put this away from your kids. Make sure you're locking this away from your kids. Don't assume that your kids can't reach it. Chances are they can. Ask me. I've had my kids get into gummy vitamins that I thought they couldn't reach.
Right.
Don't underestimate your kids. So put these in a spot, treat them like medicine, like treat them like you would an important medicine, put them away and treat them responsibly, and then have fun. Oh my God. Have so much fun.
Have fun. And also it's like, Mary, my daily routine with it is I'll take it after I log off and I start cooking. I start playing with my little one. It's just a part. And it's not, maybe it's not always an everyday thing, because I have the soccer practices, the this, the that, to where I'm not, to your point, I don't want to drive. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But I absolutely work it into my life and my lifestyle, and where I can't tell or share how of an uplift it gives me, and how just in the moment and relaxed I am. It just feels great.
Yeah.
And if any one of your, thank you. And if any one of your audience members or anyone has any questions, we would be more than happy to answer them. We would be more than happy, honestly, to even hold like a, I don't know, office hours to where we sit down and we answer, like, just either DM us or, email us. If they email you, Mary, I am more than happy with you sharing my email address with folks.
Yeah.
We are here to support every single woman and a man. Like, men love our product as well. Like they do. So we're here and we're just willing to have conversations, and we're really looking forward to another podcast with you one day and hearing more, from what people have asked.
Maybe one day we can even do a live on Instagram or something like that. That way we can
that would be awesome.
Yeah. I would love that. I've learned a lot, even in this podcast, things that I didn't even fully know. So I think it's just, this is one of those things where we want you to feel empowered. That's like how this whole podcast is. And that's all I want with like sharing information like this, is like, it's not to influence. So if this is something that you're listening to and you're like, I'm not really into it, that's fine. We're not trying to push anyone to do it. We're just trying to open the conversation where if one day that changes and you're curious, you can do it without guilt and without shame. If it is something you are currently dabbling in, you can do so and talk about it openly without the shame and the guilt. And you can just enjoy and just like, we have too much shit. Moms and women have too much shit that we have to worry about. This is not one of those. These should just be for your benefit.
Way too much shit. And that's why Melanie and I took all the guessing games out of this product, and we wanted to make it as authentic, as transparent, as enjoyable, as luxurious as all of us women should have in our lives.
Absolutely.
So that's really important to us. And Mary, if any of your audience would like to purchase it, have them use your code VeryMary, and they'll get free shipping. And we are found at loveyou3.com.
Yeah,
and
awesome. And like I said, I'll put all of that in the show notes. That way everyone can check that out, and scroll down if you're not familiar with show notes are. If you're listening to this episode, just make sure you go to the episode details and then click on the episode itself, and it will expand and you'll be able to see everything. Check out Instagram also. If you're on Instagram, if that's too much, just check out the show notes. If you go to my Instagram, obviously The Very Merry Life, I have a highlight called edibles. So you guys can check out there. And then if on podcasts, Instagram, because I have the Picking Daisies Instagram, I'll share all of that also over on there, and I'll create a highlight as well. But trust me on that. Like I brought them on for a reason to help broach the situation, but it wasn't because I found anyone. It's because this is a small business that I had the honor to share and fall in love with, and I'm backing like 100%. So
thank you, Mary. We really appreciate that.
No, well, thank you guys. So,
thank you, Mary.
We love you three.
We love you.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. This has been great.
This has been wonderful, Mary. Thank you.
Another episode down. Thank you all so much for listening. If you loved today's episode, I would be so appreciative if you would leave a rating and review. I cannot begin to tell you how much those mean to me, but also how much they help me get in front of more eyes and more ears. As always, be sure to check back every Tuesday and Friday for a new episode, whether it's an episode with me and my husband, me and Katie, or just another incredible, amazing guest. Stay tuned for more honest, real, raw chit chat. And hey, do me a favor before you go. Remind yourself how amazing you are, how enough you are, how special you are. And boy, oh boy, I sure am glad to have you here. Thanks, friend.